So, continuing with the next set of articles, Finding Herself. The transgender activist Santa Kurai's memoir traces her life in militarized Manipur and her struggle to self identity. So, this is the book that is written, The Yellow Sparrow by Santa Kurai. एंड यहाँ पे हम बात कर सकते हैं कि कैसे जो सेक्शन होते हैं ऑफ द सोसाइटी स्पेशली दैट आर कंप्राइज्ड बाय द LGBTQI कम्युनिटी कैसे their identity, their inclusion in the mainstream as normal individuals. It is crucial, and that can, of course, be enhanced by giving them equal chances of participation in the workforce. एंड ये भी कैसे हो पाएगा अगेन जब हम इक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी को वी कैन create at the basic level, if not equality of outcome that is based in terms of reservations, etc. तो जब हम बात करते हैं कास्ट बेस्ड रिजर्वेशंस की एंड इवन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द फिजिकल डिसेबिलिटीज तो in such communities को भी there must be such reservations that can be created ताकि एक mainstream inclusion हो for at least a particular time and also separate institutions can be created for their better. So that was about it since they require more growth in the since they are mostly abandoned by their families. So regarding this we can seek upon. Now, next, Beyond the Facade. So, in his new book, former diplomat Rajiv Dogra looks at autocratic regimes and what makes them rise and fall. So, this further includes various examples as well. So, autocrats, charisma, power, and their lives. So, it is a very comprehensive book, as is being mentioned. And he says democracy alone does not guarantee that the elected leader will not arrogate power to himself. Institutional safeguards, they are included in democracy. इसीलिए ये important हो जाते हैं. The dictator knows how to preserve and strengthen it, the acquired power. तो इसलिए they rise. तो shadow hands, Prakash Patra and Rashid Khidwai provide a thrilling account of the Nagarwala financial scam that shook the Indira Gandhi's government. तो Nagarwala episode. तो 1971 Ved Prakash Malhotra, head cashier at SBI of India's Parliament Street branch in Delhi, received a call asking him to deposit rupees 60 lakh to a courier for secret mission of great national interest. The caller identified himself as P.N. Haksar, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's trusted aide and secretary. तो the Nagarwala scam 1971 and उसके बाद 1992 scam that also occurred during the tenure of P.V. Narasimha Rao ji. Further again is regarding work-life balance.
आई वुड लाइक टू ऐड,
Yes,
जैसे
ma'am.
हमने ये स्कैम देखा अभी, तो हम बोल सकते हैं कि उस टाइम पे इन फाइनेंशियल स्कैम्स की वजह से जो ट्रस्ट था ऑन द गवर्नमेंट एंड आल्सो ऑन द बैंकिंग सेक्टर, वो कहीं ना कहीं रिड्यूस हुआ था. एंड इन स्कैम्स के बाद ही हम बैंकिंग सेक्टर के अंदर भी काफी रिफॉर्म्स देखते हैं, जैसे कि जो वेरिफिकेशन प्रोसेस है उसको और ज्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट किया गया, इंटरनल कंट्रोल जो है बैंक्स के अंदर उसको स्ट्रेंथन किया गया, एंड ओवरऑल जो रिटन डॉक्यूमेंटेशन होता है जब आप बड़ी ट्रांजैक्शन करवाते हो, तो आज भी हम बैंक्स में देखते हैं कि रिटर्न में एप्लीकेशन लिया जाता है। तो वो हम बोल सकते हैं कि इन्हीं फाइनेंशियल स्कैम्स के बाद से होने लगा। एंड अभी हम टेक्नोलॉजी का भी यूज करते हैं जिसकी वजह से पूरा जो प्रोसेस है वेरिफिकेशन का उसको हम और ज्यादा स्मूदन हमने किया है एंड और ज्यादा इंक्लूसिव बनाया है।
And
तो
also
कहीं ना
we
कहीं हम्म।
hmm, we have also seen implementation of the Basel norms, which we can say has been the major structural changes as far as enhancing the quality of banking services in India is concerned. And that too specifically, we see that during this particular time period, as we've been talking about, this was a time period when we saw that public sector banks, they had a major share. So there were certain, again, concerns related to their fair functioning, their transparency. They were not given so much of autonomy in terms of taking decisions for deciding the interest rate at which they'll be giving loans or giving extending credit. So these were some of the concerns as well. And gradually we saw that even again during this time period in 1969, banks were nationalized. So this was the same era when we were talking about that public sector banks. And gradually after the structural reforms in 1991, we saw that even private sector banks, they were emerging. And we saw that the quality was also being focused upon when it comes to even NPAs as well. So more regulatory, more safety, and more precautionary, we can say that banking services, and which has turned out to be a resilient banking sector in India, which is, we can say, in current times is one of the most stable and one of the most connected banking network in the world.
So work-life balance, we have been reading about it since long. तो how जो stress होता है, जो breaks नहीं होते, how they impact the mental health. Since regarding there was an instance where due to the work pressure, it led to death of an individual. So stress can lead to increased acid production, reflux, and esophagitis, dyspnea, and gastritis. So it can also alter the gastrointestinal motility, the movement of food through the digestive system, cause bloating, constipation or diarrhea, can lead to overeating, a lack of appetite, and it can also alter the gut microbiota, which can lead to inflammation and obesity that compromise the functioning of insulin and the cardiovascular system. So again, this is the physical impact that was shown regarding the work stress and mental effect. Obviously the work efficiency it gets reduced since the individual does not focus on the work rather on the other aspects, so they further decrease the productivity of the individual. And stress की भी जब हम बात करते हैं तो it is like inverted U-shaped relation between stress and productivity. कैसे अगर बिल्कुल भी स्ट्रेस नहीं होएगा देन अगेन प्रोडक्टिविटी विल नॉट बी enhanced एट ऑल. लेकिन अगर एक मीडियम सर्टेन लेवल ऑफ स्ट्रेस है जो कि रिक्वायर्ड भी होता है देन प्रोडक्टिव विल बी एट इट्स पीक. लेकिन फर्दर अगर जरूरत से ज्यादा एक्सेस में इफ इट विल एग्जिस्ट then again the productivity will definitely decrease. And also the major impacts as we can see in this article itself on the health of the individual. तो कोपिंग स्ट्रेटजीज में क्या क्या कर सकते हैं अगेन शेयरिंग विद समवन टॉकिंग टू समवन फर्दर जो मेंटल हेल्थ है इसका टैबू दैट इज स्लोली बीइंग worn out. तो उसके ऊपर we can work upon the major therapy sessions that are conducted. And if the individual cannot afford them, then of course talking to a friend or a family member, finding someone out. And even government की जो helpline numbers होता है उन पे भी the individual can contact and share about their thoughts and problems. जैसे कि मानस there was a portal if I'm not wrong with the name, तो specifically mental health के लिए ही था. And also writing that can especially help. if not speaking to someone. So it is जाके we can sit in the temple or do something that we like by taking out some time. So although it sounds tough, initiate करना, but slowly it helps. या फिर even physical exercises etc. Taking breaks. So this again is regarding hidden flavors of Singapore. The journey through hawker centers and iconic dishes and durian. So we can also talk about कि globalization में कैसे जो food है, even that is being shared, or perhaps that is being more famous with regard to the uh, I am not getting the term, but जो instant foods होता है that are created just by adding boiled water to them or in such ways, जैसे ready-made foods जो आता है. Of course, disregarding the health impacts here, but they do help in the growing of the brands etc. of a particular country. तो यहाँ पे and also of course जो street food है, employment है vendors के लिए, that further increases a lot. Especially in the cities which are actually very foodie, जैसे दिल्ली की हम बात करते हैं, and have specific dishes that are very famous there. So here Singapore's food scene is not just for chili carb and Hainanese chicken rice. So these are top iconic dishes here. So fish soup, nasi padang, roti prata. तो साउथ इंडियन फ्लैट ब्रेड के टाइप में ही है ये.
So
Adopted
recently, as
in cuisine.
we are talking about regulation of the food. So recently, as we've been talking about importance of regulation of the food processing industries because of again the quality of food, or even when it comes to like properly disclosing in a transparent manner the nutritional ingredients which are being used to actually process that food or to increase the shelf life. That has become one of the important concerns because there is excess, we can say, growth or excess consumerism as far as again the demand for the FMCG goods is increasing, fast moving consumer goods. In that, the processed food is definitely one of the major components. So when it comes to capitalist models, we see that again their main objective is to make profits. So we should talk about how can we create an ecosystem around conscious capitalist models, specifically when it comes to the food processing industry or the food industry. So in this case, we can, as we see that there are like food parks are being created by the government, then we can say that the role of Food Safety and Standards Authority of India is very important as a regulator of this industry. And consciously, when it comes to self-regulation also aspect, so these food processing industries and different layers, they should also need to make a shift towards much more healthier options, as we also talk about nutritional security also, so they can cater to that demand as well. And how, as a part of their CSR activities also, we can say they are again reinvesting in such an sector which is aiding or which is helping or enhancing the quality of life, or it is helping in enhancing the average lifetime of a person. So Make in UP initiative for the defense, so particularly when we are talking about indigenization or self-reliance, particularly in defense production. So one example or one case study we can talk about is Uttar Pradesh. So Uttar Pradesh Defense Industrial Corridor. It is a transformative initiative aimed at enhancing India's defense manufacturing capabilities. We talk about technology transfer, we are talking about joint ventures, even when it comes to like the the submarine mission that we have, manufacturing of submarines by Mazagon Dock Limited. Then we also have this related to the UP Expressways Industrial Development Authority. So it will, in a way, when it comes to transportation, logistics costs can come down, but the indigenization in defense manufacturing can help us also in boosting our defense exports at the same time, reducing our import reliance when it comes to, again, major share of the defense exports coming from Russia. So making this entire ecosystem of defense manufacturing more competitive. It will create more job opportunities also. It will be again boosting STEM sector and enhancing the per capita income particularly. And also this is critical from the perspective of national security at the same time. So we are fully committed to nurturing a supportive environment to further enhance our capabilities and establish India as a leading global defense manufacturing hub. So this is the vision as far as defense sector is concerned. And yesterday also we were talking about development of certain weapons and equipments which are having long range. Given the changing geopolitical situation and our learnings from Russia-Ukraine war, our learnings from the Israel-Hamas conflict or Israel-Gaza Strip conflict. So defense, maybe when we're talking about different institutional stakeholders, so particularly we have the Factory Ordnance Board. Apart from this, we are seeing startup companies also participating. Then we have DRDO also. So we have like Bharat Electronics Limited is an important player. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited is important. Then R&D is one important sphere when we're talking about the budget allocation or efficient utilization of resources. So we are having a defense and aerospace policy. So this is specifically in the context of UP, defense and aerospace policy. So do we have this at pan-India level or not is another question. So we are giving certain tax incentives and Atmanirbhar in defense production. So investments, and then we see that BrahMos Aerospace when it comes to again manufacturing of these missiles. Bharat Dynamics Limited is another player, and Amitech Electronics and Veriwind Defense started the production in the Aligarh node. So this map also becomes important. Connectivity as a catalyst in UP. So 4 dedicated freight corridors are there, 5 international airports, 6 operational expressways, rail track length of 16,000 kilometers with 5 zones, and 12,000 kilometers is the total length of the national highways running through the state. India's first inland waterway connecting major exporting hubs to Haldia port via Varanasi and Prayagraj. So very important. We can just have a look at this map. So as far as research, innovation, development of new technologies is concerned, so these are the examples we are seeing even that when it comes to higher education institutions also. So institutions like IIT Kanpur, IIT BHU, IIT Technopark, even they are contributing as far as research and innovation is concerned. So to bridge the skill gap also, we are focusing upon the like we are having different partnerships with NSIC, AASSC and DRDO. So Defense Technology and Test Center is there at Lucknow. So here we can say that one is the competitive in production. So competitiveness in production is happening through creation of industrial corridors. Second component is the budget that is related to it. Third, we can say is availability of raw materials is one the major thing. Fourth is the skilled man force we can talk about. And fifth, we can say that how we can promote equity even in production as well. How we can take the help of startups or even MSMEs if they can help. So creative conundrum, again, from the perspective of grassroots level, we're talking about, this is again one unique thing, which again, India has. So India's artisans and weavers and even traders are facing unique challenges that often go unnoticed. So when it comes to the textile sector, this is one important component. So it causes them significant losses because of this. So we're talking about formalizing this creative economy. And is it really the answer to the problems and the challenges that they face? So it is definitely large, and the potential is also, it remains untapped to a larger extent, according to Asian Development Bank Institute. So rural spaces, when it comes to MSMEs, they are a major contributor to this. As far as again, formalization at the grassroots level is concerned, then when it comes to availability of official credit facilities, we have the SHG's bank linkage program that is there. Apart from this, when it comes to other areas, for example, when it comes to the handloom sector. So there also, when it comes to labor intensive versus capital intensive. So in this case, we have often argued that we need to promote labor intensive sectors, because that is the again the reality in India, that we are having surplus in skilled labor. So we need to go ahead with that model of, we can say, entrepreneurship, or we need to promote that level of capitalism. And here, for example, handloom sector 2 employs around 3.5 million people, and 2.5 million, then they're related to allied workers also. So this is also one of the added advantage that we can say, direct and indirect job creation. So survival of these creative activities, we can say that each state is having its unique form of this such types of, like, we have different methods of weaving the cloth. For example, we can talk about only saris has so much of diversity in India. Then there are shawls as well. So we can see in the picture as well. And here we can say that we can organize more of, like, uh, there are trade fairs which are there. We can organize more of at the local level also. We can see the participation and the integration with certain larger players which are operating in a particular region, so as to provide them with better marketing opportunities also. So such integrations can be supported. And for example, like, we have Delhi Haat that is also organized, where we see that uh, Ladakh's like artisans, they are organizing and they are presenting their goods. So Handloom Export Promotion Council is also there in order to specifically look into the export dynamics. So here also we can talk about the supply chain, that is the entire supply chain when it comes to the textile sector, because it is from, again, the it is related to agriculture. For example, when it comes to cotton or when it comes to jute, then it comes to again cleaning it and then selling it in the market, and then further reprocessing that to make a fabric, or firstly a yarn out of that, and then weaving it to make a fabric, and then we can talk about dyeing it. So that is another process, and then it is related to fashion designing also. So the multiple, we can say, stages as far as the supply chain is also concerned. So policy solution. So where does the answer to these issues lies? Is policies and the advocacy comes to as a unanimous reply most often. So streamlining the entire processes and norms, making it more digital, we can say, can help in dealing with the issues. Then apart from this, we can say that, like, facts. So 8% share of the India's working population is employed in the creative industry. 20% increase in creative exports in 2023, 50 million number of jobs which have been generated worldwide. So organizing them and restructuring can help in providing them with better marketing opportunities also, that we're talking about. So there's definitely huge potential that exists both at domestic level and international level when it comes to boosting exports. Building community support by teaching these craft-based skills would help promote the arts too. So this can be promoted as a part of vocational education also, even in schools, as a part of the national or the new education policy 2020. So by honing the students' critical thinking, technical skills, and infusing a passion for innovation, we can empower the students also to become catalyst for change and contribute meaningfully to the global creative landscape. Even for example, this creative skill, how we are again promoting our traditional, or when it comes to, for example, like, we have different paintings which are again painted on the cloth itself, as far as like Madhubani painting is concerned, or when it comes to painting different themes from Mahabharata or Ramayana. So we can now talk about how modern themes can be integrated with such skills, which can again involve more of youth participation, student participation. So India's soft power, one important element is 50 years on raise films. So here we see from Brazil to Italy restored the titles to be shown at different fests and OTT platforms. So this is one thing. So here we can say that the Satyajit Ray's films, they are digitally restored and they would be again available to the viewers as well. For example, we see the Brazil Sao Paulo International Film Festival is going to have retrospective of his movies. Then we have, for example, if we have the names. So like, for example, Charulata is one, Mahanagar and Nayak, all made between 1963 and 1966. Mahapurush, then Kapurush, all these are the examples of his movies. So even when it comes to, again, his popularity in US, UK, and France, so he's a very well-known person through his work. So we can particularly choose about the subjects that his movies is talking about or is actually based on. So that is one of the ways also we can spread this in a conscious and sustainable manner. And definitely soft park a बहुत important element तो है theatrical and festival circuit. Urban voter apathy matter of concern. So Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, Maharashtra Assembly elections regarding he's talking about. So he says that our effort will be to ensure that there is maximum enrollment and voting in Maharashtra Assembly elections. So polls are going to be held before 26th of November. And here we can talk about that the role of Election Commission of India as far as conducting free and fair elections in a fair and transparent manner is concerned. So when it comes to strengthening the democratic politics, so conducting fair elections is one key component. And recently we are talking again in the context of what is the efficacy or the effectiveness of the simultaneous elections for India's democratic model, how better it can fit into this, what are going to be the challenges, for example, the expenditure that would be required, and then do we have sufficient amount of personnel to station them at the same time at the pan-India level or not? So that is one challenge. Apart from this, there are several concerns raised, for example, that it will weaken our federal polity. So whether that is going to be so or not is the thing. And then we can study different models which are working in different national countries, or when it comes to, again, we saw one argument was that whether it is also driven by the American model or not. So it needs to suit the India's aspirations, and if it is again a part of a solution of it, any challenge or a issue, so that needs to be again looked into. So Festival of Democracy. So as far as water is concerned, so again, another program that is run by Election Commission of India is SWEEP also. So that is also regarding the awareness being generated or the voter education program. Then criminalization of politics is another challenge that we recently face. And then there's certain concerns raised again about the unbiased nature of the functioning of EVMs. There has been no proof so far. These are mere allegations. Adani's Kenya dealing spark protest and lawsuit. So Adani's bid to expand the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. So airport workers, they brought the facility to a halt, fearing for their jobs if the deal goes through. And Kenya Human Rights Commission, the Law Society of Kenya, told the court that Kenya could raise proposed close to $2 billion of investment without going to Adani's terms and conditions. So that is the thing, because again, being a private player, Adani being a private player, so again, this agreement would be having certain terms and conditions that need to be complied with. But again, the stakeholders from Kenya, they wish that if it is possible to construct or do the changes without Adani's role. The FIR against the finance minister over complaints relating to electoral bonds. So a case was registered against her on the direction of a court following a complaint relating to the now scrapped electoral bond scheme. So this electoral bond scheme was introduced stating that it will be boosting more transparency. It would be curbing the black money which was used to finance again the elections. But again, there also we saw that it didn't turn out to be so in reality because of the nature of functioning of the electoral bonds or the manner of buying and then giving that a particular electoral boon to a political party did not come out in such a transparent and fair manner. So here particularly we see that the case has been registered on this particular subject. So it is related to allegations that the accused committed extortion under the guise and the garb of electoral bonds and benefited to the tune of 8,000 and more crore of rupees. So now ED would be going ahead with the investigations. So it was very clear, even we went through several facts, that it is the incumbent political party which gets the major share of donations out of the electoral bond scheme. So how can we say that it functioned in a fair manner? It functioned in an unbiased and just manner when it comes to electoral funding. So should we have an emoji for the planet also? So emojis, they reflect reality of our times. So, but this one isn't one to, again, celebrate, because we can see if we have such a type of emoji, this is nothing to celebrate about. It is indicating the impact of climate change. It is indicating how climate change can impact the food security, the entire, we can say, economy related to the agriculture sector, how directly it can impact the farmers, and also land desertification would make land permanently unsuitable for cultivation, directly impacting water security as well. So the quality of land in the soil, when we use the term the arable land, that would be directly impacted. So ultimately it will be impacting our lives. So idea of a dead tree emoji, it was first pitched in 2022, and the climate cycle now changing, drought is spreading to places and worn out the natural resources because of this. So reclamation of land becomes very difficult. Then we're talking about another emoji, a leafless tree. They're known as the dead tree or the dying tree emoji, expressing climate change concern. So again, when we're talking about the social media, because again here this is an example of that. So how we can use again emojis. So this is again going to be symbolic thing. It is not going to help us in terms of reducing or mitigating the impact of climate change, but it would be helpful in terms of awareness generation or talking on this particular subject. So like melting ice, retreating rate of glaciers, sea level rise, plastic pollution, loss of biodiversity, these have huge impact on the ecosystem. By 2050, over 3/4 of the world's population could be affected by a drought. 3/4. Drought has become existential threat for even smaller communities. It is again posing challenges to the survival of the tribal communities, the PVTGs which are there. So adding more depth to your diet. So underrated superfoods, what are the examples? We have fermented dairy products like yogurt and kefir. These are easier to digest as fermentation breaks down the lactose in the milk to simpler sugars like glucose and galactose. So fermentation is one thing of dairy products. Then a combination of probiotics like Lactobacillus helvictis and Bifidobacterium longum, they are found in fermented foods. They can elevate symptoms of anxiety and depression. So also connected to the mental health. Good bacteria used in lactofermentation process of pickles breaks down sugars and starches in the food and vegetables. So that is why we also talk about the diversity of the food options even available in India. The critical importance of the spices that we use in our food is very important from the perspective of even the good benefits that it has for our health. For example, pickles is one thing. So oil creates an anaerobic condition that allows native bacteria to produce lactic acid, extending the shelf life naturally. So this is a natural process of, again, making processed food. So pickles is an example. Then South Indian food, that is considered again very healthy. So we can say that fermentation is actually the main thing, the process, chemical process, which is helping us to make food much more healthier and breaking down again complex again, components into simpler forms like sugar. So how actively we are changing or we are shifting, or we have the desire to shift towards an active and the healthy lifestyle is most important thing. So that is why we even say that, for example, of late we are seeing the growth and emergence of cloud kitchens. So better integration with, again, we have like two major apps. So we have duopoly in the market as far as Zomato and Swiggy is concerned, and even their reach is only limited to the densely populated areas or to the metropolitan cities. What about again the rural areas? Although we say that, but their lifestyle is very simple, and that is again, that is why they are able to have a longer lifetime as well. So these options or these food delivery apps need to provide us with, firstly, more information on the ingredients and the calories, as we are seeing that different players are doing so, and also providing more healthier options. Even when it comes to junk food, like we have, for example, if we talk about pav bhaji, so we have ragi pav bhaji. So such changes are needed. So we'll continue tomorrow with the next set of important topics. Thank you so much for joining us on Ansarkari, and stay tuned for further detailed discussions.